Welcome to the Dog Classroom.
The Dog Classroom podcast. I am your co-host, Anne-Marie.
And I'm your co-host, Amelia.
Like and subscribe
on Spotify and YouTube in video format. And now into the episode.
Here we go. Hello, everybody. As you can see to my left here, this is not Miss Amelia. This is Mr. Mike, and he will be our guest for this podcast. We thought that quite a few people have been asking, who is Mike? And wanted to sort of see him on, I'd say on the podcast, but then also they ask about Instagram and Facebook and all that, because apparently they want to put a face with the name, especially when we talk about you in training classes and that sort of thing. So we're going to talk today a little bit about things to look for when adopting a dog, right? Whether that be from a breeder. We're going to focus more on puppy, right? We had talked about, we're going to talk about adopting from breeder and also rescue, but more puppy-ish.
Yeah, expectations.
Expectations.
On what we're going to do.
Yeah. Reason why Mike's in this, or sort of in this area, and wanted to talk about this topic is, how old's Augie now?
14 months.
Oh, shoot.
Somewhere around there.
I was still thinking he's like 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got him last December.
Okay. December.
That was at
Okay.
8 weeks. So
Yeah.
yeah, 13, 14 months, somewhere around there.
Okay. So how long did you research looking for a breeder until you got, yeah, I know it's a bit of a story. Maybe you'll give us the short version on that.
Well, this time I actually researched for a different breed originally.
Right.
And found a breeder, and that took me probably a good 6 months or so of looking and asking questions and all those types of things.
When you mean looking, were you like Facebook? Were you emailing?
So I guess to start with it, really, I'm looking for a particular breed because I've researched the breeds and I'm looking for something that's going to fit my family.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Busy family, have 2 children, work full time, do things like this, dog training and whatnot, to keep me busy. So I need something that fits into that life. The kids are at a stage that they've got all these other activities and everything. So I need something that is good in the house. We can go and do a whole bunch of activities together, but they're perfectly chill otherwise. So research the breed, come up with a Mastiff type breed. The first one that I was looking for this time was French Mastiff, keeping in the Mastiff line because I know how much exercise they need and all that type of thing.
Right. So just to pipe in there a little bit, and Mike did have a previous dog, Jax. He was a bull mastiff.
Yeah. So I didn't have to do as much research for breeds because I had done that already before to kind of find that. But that's generally what we would want to do when we're looking for a dog, is just, looking up what's typical of breeds, and so you can understand those expectations of when you're bringing that dog home and what you're going to get within a couple of years. Often people look at the puppy phase and, they goo goo gaga over this little tiny puppy that looks so cute and so much fun to play with and everything, but that doesn't last. It lasts even a couple months in some breeds, right? You're like Jax and Augie at 4 months old, they were 45 to 60 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people get focused on the puppy phase, and honestly, it does not last that long.
Yeah, so you really got to think about, how is this dog that, hopefully for years is going to fit into the life and into our life, and what's going to happen. So, being busy like that, I needed something that isn't going to take 4 hours a day to exercise.
Right.
So, Malleys, no, thank you. I can't do that. It's just way too much work.
Yeah.
And Mastiffs, within reason, they're pretty much, you can go quite a few days with just 45 minutes to an hour, and they're pretty much chill the rest of the time, right? So looking at Mastiff breeds was my first step, and then once you're selecting a breed, then we start looking for where we can actually source this breed from, and what I would classify as a reputable breeder. And
so I'm going to interrupt you for 2 seconds. When Mike says Mastiff breeds, there's different types of Mastiffs, right? So Bull Mastiffs are their smallest, right? And then we got French Mastiff.
Yep.
Then just Mastiff.
Yep, Mastiff, English Mastiff.
English Mastiff. Yep. And then we have
Italian Mastiffs.
Italian Mastiffs, well. And then the Neapolitan. I'm doing this because they have huge jowls. That's why. Sorry, I'm doing that.
Neos,
the Neo and big. Yeah, big. So that's when Mike talks about Mastiff breeds. That's what he means.
Yeah, Molosser. If you're talking about like whole branches, they're all within there.
Yeah.
And that's when I look at that, it's just exercise and what I can fit in a day. I could do my 45-minute walk, no problem. And, it's not just that. You interact with them, obviously, throughout the day, but doing that little bit of exercise, and we can still be a good household. It can fit, my dog.
Well, then, once they've had that exercise, then it's the cohabitation part.
Yeah.
Okay, then now you were talking about actually getting... looking into individual breeders.
Yeah. So whenever we're talking about a recognized breed, which French Mastiff or Bull Mastiffs recognized by a kennel club or whatever, that's really your first step, is going to those clubs, going to the associations that are for the breeds, and looking for contact information. And then going through multiple iterations of questions, and both ways, hopefully, a good quality breeder will ask you a whole bunch of questions too.
Yeah, I was going to say, definitely from my experience with the breeders, is you definitely want a conversation going both ways. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for Augie, like I said, I was in contact with a French Mastiff breeder for probably a good 6 months before I really felt like it was a good fit.
Right.
Just talking about, what they do, like testing that they have done, how often they breed, the pedigrees for their dogs, stuff like that. And just trying to understand, how much work they put in, if they're going to create, a dog at the end of whelping that I feel has had the right experiences, things like that.
So experiences meaning some of the breeders have now almost started their own little puppy program.
Yeah. When you get right deep into some of the kennel club breeders, they have... they share information all the time, what works, what doesn't work over the years. And
so it's like a community.
Yeah. And whelping is huge. When we talk about nature versus nurture and all that, it's very difficult to separate the two. But we do know that certain experiences that they go through can create a well-balanced dog at the end. We're always talking about, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when we're talking about rescues and stuff like that. But, there's always things that are inherited and behaviors that come from parents and stuff like that, or bred into them like that. But, making sure that they've experienced a whole bunch of experiences before they get to you, so they're comfortable with change in their environment and they don't get spooked about, small things, or something falling on the floor. One thing that I was, grateful for when I got Augie was the conversation with his breeder. We talked about my plans with Augie, that he was going to be crate trained in that, and he started the work.
Which I think is huge for owners, because I find in doing consults or even puppy school, that they seem to settle a little bit quicker when you have the breeder start some of that, like crate training, even house training, right? Like actually bringing them outside. That's actually a question I asked when I first got Fisher eons ago. I think they were born like February, March, but on milder days, the breeder made a point of bringing them outside, just to experience the different sounds. And yeah. The thing is, Mike's also saying, like, it's not only just stuff in the house and like people coming or going, like it smells, it sounds, it's, the different environments. I find with some puppies, it's actually experiencing different breeds of dogs sometimes too. If not, they think they all look the same. Right? And you get this puppy that, looking at other puppies going, what are you? Yeah. So that's interesting as well. And same with different ages of people. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like with the crate thing with Augie, the big metal crates, like those are scary things that make loud noises sometimes when they bang into them. We brought him in the house and he jumped in that crate and went to sleep almost right away.
Yeah.
Like he was just perfectly comfortable with it. And, that's because of all the work that the breeder did during whelping phase, right? And, if you're really looking for something specific and need it to fit and, you're setting your expectations to be able to, have this thing that will fit into your life a certain way, you got to do the homework for that.
Yeah.
The flip side, though, is, rescues and any other way that you're going to actually source a pet, you have to expect unexpected in those situations because, a rescue, for example, often in this area anyways, they're coming from, remote locations. Often they've been bred in like outdoor conditions and they haven't had somebody watching over the puppies as closely as like a registered breeder would.
Yeah.
So they might not get all those experiences. They might, or they might not get them and they'd be perfectly fine too. Like everything's nuanced in that, but you can't expect that, rescue tells you that it's a husky shepherd cross. Well, you can't expect that you're going to get specifically that and what you've seen other huskies and other shepherds and even other husky shepherd crosses. You can't expect that they're going to behave the same way, settle into your house the same way or anything like that. Like you really have to be prepared to expect the unexpected and be able to deal with things that maybe you weren't thinking were going to be a problem.
Right. And when I'm talking with puppy owners, I try to encourage them, like if they're looking through a puppy for a rescue, I like to know whether the puppies like were brought in as puppies or was the mother brought in pregnant. And then the puppies were actually delivered, in a nice, clean house and mom was well fed and she's nursing puppies and the puppy's well fed. Because I think that is a little bit of a difference as, how they're brought up rather than them sort of eating random things that mom's scavenging for or somebody's, just throwing them scraps, that sort of thing. The other thing to look for is doing a little bit of research too, honestly, with rescues, again, asking the foster home, right? Where different questions as, was it a quiet puppy? Was it an outgoing puppy? That sort of thing, because you want to try and ask the questions to the person that's most been around, right? More than likely, you're not going to meet both parents, right? Yeah. So you're probably just going to meet mom if she was brought in as well. But I think it's sort of neat to say, and some people are getting more involved into breed testing, right? Doing the different, I think there was one still at LU. I don't know if they're still doing it, but I know there's some where you can register online and you do a little swab and it gives you a percentage of that to tell you. When I got Frolic, so she came from Animal Services, at first we thought she was one breed by looking at her, but I went on at like 6 to 8 months, like innate tendencies that she started to do. So she became a little, when she saw things, she started to herd a little bit. So go in behind, and I'm thinking, okay, what's this? And then she got, a little bit nippy, and she can get a little bit serious. So it was like looking at different combinations there, because I find sometimes with the rescues, it's hard to tell. Like you got a little fluffy ball sitting there, but like you're trying to say is accept the thing that you're going for, this little fluffy ball, and you're going to figure it out and work through day by day to actually figure out the personality.
Yeah, I mean, when you work with a breeder, like I did, you can ask them questions about that breed and the tendencies and all those different types of things. So you can know those things ahead of time. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to be 100% bang on exactly behaving this way. That isn't how that works. But when you're going through a rescue, you have to expect the unexpected. Yeah. And often the folks that we see distraught in class that get rescues, not that I'm saying that everyone's like that, but the ones that have come in, I think that's the main issue with them, is they didn't actually expect the unexpected. They thought that it was going to be easy, and it turned out not to be, right? Yeah. They destroyed the house in the first 3 days or what have you, especially when you get the older ones coming in through rescue like that. We see that often, but and then just, they get, like I said, they just fall in love with this little fluff ball and, hang up that thinking part of your brain, and you bring them home, and then all of a sudden that thinking part comes back and you realize what you've done, and now you're in it and you got to figure it out, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we're here for too, is for those people and anyone else that needs to understand what's going on, how to address issues and all that, like, come and see us so we can actually help.
Right. So what I try to do is, even though dogs are different breeds, right? And we have, all these, I don't want to say up and coming breeds, but, we've had certain standard ones, golden retriever, labs, that sort of thing over the time. And then you start to see some different crosses, that sort of thing, sort of coming out. But the idea is to be prepared, which is what you're talking about a little bit. So Mike was already talking about crate training, having the conversation. But I think it's also realizing like the actual maturity and time span of it. Again, I always joke when we're in beginning with basics or the next step that that's the hardest time, I think, in owning a dog is adolescence. So let's say 8 months to 2 years, right? Where I honestly think a lot of people think it's puppyhood. I think after 4 months, everybody's like, woohoo, game on, dog's older, it's house trained. And I'm like, oh, just wait. Yeah. Right?
Everything starts sliding backwards.
It does. Because again, yes, socialization is important in that time. And we talk about that and trying to, I don't want to say handhold, but really try to prepare people. And I think back a little bit because I was teaching puppy school last night and then also did a puppy consult. And it was sort of cool to sit there. Amelia and I were talking about it today. And it was sort of cool to go to this consult with the puppy and him, like they had questions, but they were like honest and really good questions, right? So I think some of it is they could have prepared possibly for it. And again, you're talking about the relationship with the breeder or where you had gotten the dog from, which I think somewhat is important because, they should know the dogs. But the other thing was, they just basically said to me, like, you're the professional, you've been through this, you've trained lots of dogs. And afterwards, like, they were like, felt like they had a whole weight lifted off of them. Like literally asking me these questions, because there was mouthing, chasing the feet. There was, stealing Kleenex, right? We know that one, the toilet paper thing. So they seem to have a good breeder, because I always ask, I don't know if you ask, I find it interesting as to why people pick puppies sometimes.
Yeah, I tend not to ask because a lot of times what happens in class, and this kind of could be something that we talk about in one of the next episodes, but a lot of times people do is they spend so much time trying to figure out why the dog is doing a particular thing.
Yes. Yeah.
But that effort is just better spent changing that behavior.
Yeah.
And so many people, and I often with rescues, and I don't mind hearing the backstories. Like I'm perfectly fine with that. But so often they have so much detail in the backstory, and I just wish that they paid that much attention to what's going on right in the moment, so you can tell me why this behavior actually started, and start seeing the triggers of those behaviors, and where we can actually intercept that and change it to something that we're looking for, right? So I like to listen a little bit, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, don't worry about that. Let's just move on. Let's get to that thing that you're really looking for, right?
Yeah, because, and I'll say that though too in consults, is we're not gonna spend our time trying to figure out why. We're gonna spend our time, like you said, fixing it or changing it. So, then we could, like, a whole nother conversation could be bringing in adolescent dogs and stuff. But Mike and I chose to sort of keep it puppyish, right? I don't want to say the majority of people adopt puppies. Honestly, couldn't tell you the statistics as to whether they get rescues and stuff. I just think over the last, and if I'm fair to say, the 8-10 years, maybe we are seeing more rescues. Would you say? Well,
there's been more rescue organizations that have been created around here, so that definitely brings more in. There's more funding to do it too. So like there's one rescue in town that just brings rescues through and brings them for vetting in the GTA area.
Southern,
and that's all funded through the GTA areas, humane societies and that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and the humane societies have become more of a presence, where I honestly think in the States they've been more of a presence a little bit longer with that sort of thing. But it's sort of coming up. I don't want to say coming up in Thunder Day, because I find it has definitely been there the last few years. But, when sort of first getting my dogs, it just wasn't so evident. Like, you had animal services and you had... I don't even know if that point we had the Humane Society. Oh, I'm going to date myself, but so just to wrap it up, where Mike and I were going with this is, I think a lot of it is planning. That's what I want to say is absolute planning. Mike planned for 6 months, and then to analyze it, and if I get it wrong, just let me know. But then, found this breeder, got a relationship, and then a lot of times it's being put on a list. It's not literally, boom, here's the puppy, right? So it can be a little bit different, timing-wise, though, too, whether you're looking for a specific thing, and sometimes, there's puppies available, sometimes it's not. But the main thing we just want to get across, whether it's a purebred dog, whether, say, it's a dog from a neighbor down the way, or even a rescue, I really believe it's planning. Yeah, I think it's planning and accepting the puppy you have and be willing to learn, spending time training and, working together to cohabitate, instead of saying, I thought this is what was going to be. And then just saying, okay, this is what it is, and this is what I'm going to do to help it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you want to go into the planning stuff, because I did talk about that a little bit when I did the puppy can't remember, pandemic puppy.
You did a
live
Facebook
or
Live,
whatever.
right? Yeah.
But, you know, there's a whole slew of things that you want to do before you bring a dog home.
Yeah.
In general, any dog, but puppies especially, and all that. So I don't know if we want to go into that at all, but...
Well, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap up. And I want to end off with this. Mike was actually the first... I mentored Mike, and I think he was the first like trainer or person I ever worked with when I started training. So we have an interesting history, but maybe that's a whole nother thing. So thanks everybody for listening. And remember, if you guys have questions, we are here. Thank you.
Thanks.